right, so it is 10 o'clock. So we can go ahead and get started. And the sooner we get started, the sooner we can finish.
Mm.
All right, so far this class we have talked about essay structure and the process of writing. That was what we did in the first day and a half. We talked about the kind of writing, the types of writing that we will be doing here for you guys starting next semester. So in what, a month, basically. You guys have about a month left until school starts. Uh, so short. Um, but yeah, we talked about that. We talked about structure a little bit, um, not about writing in general, but about the kinds of writing you'll be doing here for us. So specifically persuasive essays. Um, and we talked about the different ways that you can kind of approach organizing your ideas and kind of do your pre-writing. So we talked about webbing. We talked about doing outlines, both structured and non. So if I give you an outline sheet, you can fill it in, but you can also do that yourself with your own ideas, right? In different ways. So it's all about just organizing your ideas so that when you write them down, they're clear and people can understand what you had in your head and then got down on the paper in one clear kind of straightforward um, kind of reading. So that's the important part is just making sure that your ideas get from up here because they were good ideas almost always, and then they got them down on the paper. So and then the last thing we talked about on Monday through the PPT and the video that you guys hopefully looked at. If not, I don't mind if you guys didn't want to look at the video. That's okay. But I wanted you to have something more than just the PPT. But we talked about editing, um, and editing is important. I know I said earlier in the class that pre-writing is the most important part, and it is. Planning is definitely the best way to either improve your writing or to simply just have better writing. But editing is also important um, because nothing that we do is ever perfect. There's always another word. There's always a better description. There's always an argument that can be strengthened. Especially after you talk to someone else and you realize, hey, they had some good ideas too. So maybe I should reorganize my arguments, or maybe I should take out that argument because it's not very good, and use the one that they suggested. So we definitely don't want to cut out editing or leave it out because it is important. But pre-writing, doing the before work, means that we won't have to edit as much later on, and that's why I kind of told you it's the most important one. So that's the important one. So let's run through it real quick, and then we'll get on to what we're going to do today. Yeah. So editing. Again, the three things. If I can give you the quick version of this, um, the three different types of editing that you might receive. You'll get your teacher feedback. You'll do some self-editing, and you'll get some peer editing in class next semester or next year, however you want to put it. And like I said here, please get comfortable with people reading your essay, including you. Don't be embarrassed by it. Um, the whole point with process writing, the doing of writing, we're not focused on the product, it's the process. So we want you comfortable with writing, with playing with words, with moving arguments around and trying to find out what the best combination is. And I know that's difficult, especially here in Korea. Uh, you guys as students are taught early on that, the teacher knows the answer and they're going to tell you the answer, and you guys are going to write down the answer and then memorize the answer, and then you'll give the correct answer on the test. And that's not how writing works. Um, and I know that that's a difficult habit to break. So we need you guys to participate with us, and just do the process of writing, and that means getting comfortable with people seeing your writing for editing. So again, I mentioned with teacher feedback, um, we're not going to be grading your essay for spelling and punctuation, and a lot of grammar mistakes all the time. I might grade one or two. For the people that turned in essays either Monday or yesterday, I gave them a couple hints. I said, hey, you did this, and when you do this, maybe you should try this instead. But I didn't highlight, all 15 times they used the wrong preposition. I highlighted it once and said, hey, go back and look for these and change them. So that will be the expectation for you guys. If you misspelled a word or two, I'm going to say, hey, you need to go back and check your spelling, check your commas. But we don't have time to circle and highlight and comment on every grammatical error and spelling error and clerical error when we have so many other things that we also need to mark on your paper. So those are things that you'll pick up on during your self-editing. And again, a lot of our feedback is going to be on arguments. So if I said, hey, you did a very good job of presenting your argument about why I should go to Andong, because I should go to the Jimdak alley and go eat food. That's a good suggestion. That's a good reason I should go to Andong for food. Why? Because of Jimdak. But your argument would be better if you added in another sentence where you told me what are the flavors that I'm going to taste. What does Jimdak taste like? Is it spicy? Is it savory? Is it plain? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it one dish, or is it a whole meal of all these things together that make it so special? And what makes it so special to eat it in Andong versus me just getting it delivered from a takeout place here in Gumi? So if your if your essay is missing that extra explanation, those extra details, that will be what the teacher feedback is going to be. It's going to be pushing you to give more description, to give more explanation, but not all of these kind of grammar pronunciation things. So, and then we talked about self-editing, and I kind of gave you some tips. So the way to break this down, if it didn't make sense, is basically read it backwards. And if you read it backwards, you'll actually look at each word that you're reading. Because if you're reading the normal way, your brain will automatically fill in words as they go. And that might not happen as much in English, but it will definitely happen in your native language, whatever your native language is. So here it would be Korean. For me, it's English. Your brain fixes problems because it knows, oh, that's a noun, so that word before was an adjective. And so it starts to put them in. You fill in where your articles would be, so a and the, your conjunctions fill in. And that's where we have problems. If you read it too quickly, you'll skip over things that don't make sense because your brain knows what you meant to write, but it might not be what you actually wrote. So if you read it out of order, if you read it with a clear goal, I'm looking at each individual word, not trying to see if it makes sense. This time I'm just looking. Did I spell this word right? This word right? On and on. You'll be able to find more of those problems. So, and then again, is it persuasive? Did I use transitions? Did I vary my language? That was one of the things that I talked about in someone's essay comments this week. Find different ways to say things. You can only use the word people so many times in an essay before you need to say family or friends uh, or others. But if you just keep repeating the same word, people in this case, it doesn't always sound correct. We need to mix it up. Um, and this one, I know for the the five of you or the four of you in this class, um, I don't think this is going to be a problem. We've had it with other students in the past, but don't try to sound too smart. Don't use, when you open up your dictionary or your thesaurus and you look up the word, argumentative is a very good word already. Don't use the word disputatious. That's a it's a highly technical word. It's not a word almost any native speaker is ever going to use. And it just sounds like you're trying to be way or sound way smarter than what your paper probably is supposed to sound like. Yeah, this would be something that would only be in a legal argument. So unless you're a lawyer talking to other lawyers or presenting an argument in a court, probably not the best choice. You can just use argumentative, and it's still a very persuasive and higher level word. It's not the same as just you know not agreeing. So, and be okay with taking stuff out, please. Okay, if we tell you something's not good or change it, don't fight us and say, "But teacher, oh, this is the best." It's not the best. We wouldn't tell you to take it out if it was the best. Um, and we're being honest with you because we know that there's times when we've written things that are absolute garbage. I've written plenty of papers, and looking back on them, if I go back and look at some of the papers that I've written in the past, even ones that I put a lot of time into and edited, um, and these are even college papers. We're not talking high school, but even in college, I look at it and I go, "Wow, I didn't sound very smart there. There was a lot of things that I could have done to make my arguments better." Um, so always be okay with changing, with removing, with adding, and trust that other people around you are giving you good advice, please. And then the last one uh, that we talked about was peer editing. This is one that I know you guys are going to be a little more uncomfortable with. It'll be okay to look at your own paper. It'll be okay for the teacher to look at it, but please get okay with your classmates looking at it because everyone has their own voice, is the way I call it. But when you read something, even in your head, that your voice is what's reading it. But in addition to that, or also as you walk around, we all talk to ourselves at least a little bit in our head. We all have this running inner monologue. Um, and that voice or that style, the way that you see things, like, oh, look at that guy crossing the street. I like his shoes. However you see things and however you narrate things, that's your style. And your style will be different from other people. And so when you look at other people's papers and you read their words, you'll see that the way they say things, the way they present things, the way they describe things is different. And I'm not asking you to copy them, and I'm not asking you to completely avoid what they do if you think it's a mistake, but just learn to see things from different people's points of view. If you're a tall person, to give an example, maybe you only see things from way up high. Or if you're a short person, maybe you only see things from the very, very low point of view. When someone describes something from a different perspective, learn from it, just because that's important. If you're writing about how somebody can see something from up high and you've never been up high, how are you going to describe that? Or if you've never been super tiny and you want to imagine that everything just towers above you, it's so much bigger than you, but you've always been taller than everyone, you're going to have to think of it from another perspective, another point of view. And when we open that up to different vocabulary, if you start to include vocabulary about sports, you might not know a lot about sports, but your essay needs to be about sports, or it needs to be about cooking, even though you don't ever cook. Um, Maybe you don't really have an opinion that's very strong about your argument. You need to, do a little bit of research so that you can learn more about the topic and then present it. Um, and you can get help from others about that. If your friend is really into soccer and you're not, get them to kind of help read your paper and understand, like, am I making sense or does this not make sense? And if they say, yeah, that sounds really weird. It sounds like an alien describing soccer, not a regular person. Ask them how you could change it. Uh, and so that's the thing. You're not an expert on writing yet, but you are a reader, and so you can give feedback. How does it sound when I read it? Does it sound weird? Does it sound uncomfortable and awkward? Tell them how they can change it so it doesn't sound so awkward when you read it. And then there was the checklist. Um, and this is something that we gave to students. We'll probably do it again next year. Um, but it gives you, things to check off as you go. Um, as you're reading, uh, just to make sure that it makes sense. So that was editing. We talked again. There was come back up here. And there was teacher feedback. There was self-editing, and then there was peer editing. So hopefully those all made sense, and the different ways that they will be accomplished, or you will be asked to do them next year, which is not really next year. It's like we said, about a month away. And then the assignment for, come on now, the assignment for Monday's class was to look at this kind of example. So here's a thesis statement about a video game essay, and we gave you a body paragraph that was turned in by a student early in the fall last year. So, sorry, early in the spring. But what we wanted to know was, or I want to know was, could you edit this body paragraph? So if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and do it. There's a few spelling mistakes. There's some grammar and punctuation errors. Um, there's some ways that you can kind of combine arguments or split things up to make them sound better. But we're just looking at kind of editing. So, are there things that you can change about it to make it sound better? So, if you can, just copy and paste that into either a Word document or a Hangul document, Google Docs, wherever you want to put it. But make the changes, and then I'll take a look at it. So, in that case, we have talked about, let's see, we talked about the writing process. We talked about the structure of persuasive essays, about pre-writing, and we talked about editing, which we could also call post-writing. So, that being said, does anyone have any questions about what we've talked about? Or is there anything else that you want us to know about writing in general? Because that's basically everything you're going to be doing next semester. So when you come back in about a month, you guys will be getting into writing. You'll be doing some of these exercises in different ways as you look at the structure of essays as an entire grade and not just the 5 people in this class or the 8 people in Michael's class. Everyone else is also going to need to get this information. So you'll see similar topics, although the assignments will be different. But do you have any questions or things you want me to go over again first?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Um, So yeah, so no questions on those, and that's okay. Um, is there any other? Um, how do I ask this question? Um, so the major focus um, of next year is going to be on persuasive writing, because that is what your assessment is based on. But are there other types of writing that you guys want to be um, exposed to or shown or to do practice in? So I know, for instance, Michael worked with the third grade students on letters of recommendation and learn to spell recommendation and writing resumes and cover letters because those are things that you might need uh, for your college applications, especially if you're thinking about applying to places that are outside of Korea. So, are there any other types of writing that you guys are interested in learning about or practicing in class? Because we do have a lot of time. It's not just working on the persuasive essays. And we'd rather practice things or have you guys do things that you're actually interested in, not just things we pick. So that's why I'm asking.
Mm.
If not, that's okay. Okay, so definitely cover letters. Okay, I'll mark that one down. That is a good skill to have for sure. Okay. I am I am more open to that. Um, I thought that we were going to do more, uh, not necessarily fiction, but just the ability for you guys to use writing more as an expression. Um, and that didn't happen this past year. Um, but I hope now that we have, because I hope you guys understand, last year was the first year for writing. Writing was not a class for second and third grade students before this year. So before, for second grade students, um, we had culture as a class, and then we had conversation. And I believe what they figured out is that culture and conversation were basically the same class. It was always just students, talking in groups, kind of working on topics. Um, and so they added writing this past year, and I think it was good. I think students have learned a lot. Um, the reason why it was added is because a lot of students were contacting their homeroom teachers or even teachers that have been here a while, like Angela, and letting them know like, hey, we did like one activity. We worked on writing for like two classes, and I wish that I had spent a lot more time practicing that because college involves a lot more writing than what I knew. So they decided to add it in and take out the culture class because culture and conversation are basically the same thing. And I'm pretty sure that students um, feel good about it. I know the third grade students um, were able to use some of those skills for a lot of the essays that they had to write for their college applications, especially if they're applying to either colleges that are abroad or universities that require an English essay. So I can think of two or three students that came to us after writing them and asked us to look at them again because they were applying to um, like English programs or foreign study um, or foreign affairs universities. Um, but that being said, I completely agree. I think that we needed to budget more time for more self-expression through writing. So whether that's writing stories, poetry might be a little tough, um, but writing dialogues or kind of role plays for like a play or a short skit, I totally think that would have been a good way to practice more writing. It certainly would give you more opportunities to be more descriptive. Um, the only reason we didn't do it more this year is because of COVID, essentially. Um, we started class so late after it had been online for so long that we just didn't have the time to do it. And then with you guys going home and coming back and going home and coming back, it was difficult to get in a rhythm. But I think next year, especially if you guys can be at school full time and not have to keep going back home and back in, I definitely think there would be more time to do more forms of writing. So I definitely think that either writing stories or at least um, using more expression, um, more personal stuff, not just working on persuasive writing, is definitely an option. So I will definitely mark that down because that was something I wanted, and I know Bella as well wanted you guys to be able to work on using more narrative writing as well. So tell a story, explain it from your point of view, explain it from another person's point of view. Pick a character that isn't you and tell a story. So definitely a very good idea. Any other ideas for types of writing you want to look at? Minkyu, you're being awful quiet over there.
I'm here.
I know. Is there any type of writing that you want to practice, or have us work on next year?
Um, I have no idea.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. That's okay. So, all right. Well, in that case, um, you guys did not have any questions. So again, we talked about process. We talked about the structure. We talked about what you do before you write and after you write. So in that case, I don't really have anything left for you guys um, as far as the actual writing process that we've been talking about. The only thing that we have left then, if you haven't done an assignment and you want to get credit for it, then you can certainly go back and do it under classwork here. You can go back, for instance, if you didn't write a thesis statement, you can do one. If you didn't take it as topics, structure. If you didn't turn in an outline or a rough draft and you still want to, I will take them all the way through Friday. But if not, then it's up to you. Um, but the only thing we have left, there is a survey about the writing course itself that I would appreciate if you guys would go and take. Um, like it says here, it's worth 1 point, so it's just either you do it or you don't. But I would really appreciate it if you guys would go take it. And I'll go ahead and assign it right now. But there's questions for me, or not questions for me. There's questions about me personally. There's questions about um, the course and the materials. And then there's a kind of blank box at the very end for things that you would like to suggest. And it is um, completely anonymous. So unlike the last one, where I asked you to write your name and your student number. This one is anonymous. So I will never know who writes anything in there unless you choose to write your name in one of those boxes, which I don't want you to. So I do want you to be honest. So you don't have to write your name or your student number, but please, take the, what do you call it? Take the, and I'll show it to you here. Take the survey for me. So it'll be here, writing course evaluation. You click here, you go to it, and there's some questions here. You go to next. So again, I think there's 4 sections. Each one has 3 questions, but just things about me, things about the class, things about the materials. If you could do that, that would make me very happy. It would give me something to kind of reflect on. But other than that, we don't have anything else for the day. Today, I kind of built in for people if they had questions, and for you guys to make up any work if it was missing. I will show you one thing. If you go in, and I did write it here on the stream, yeah, it's there. But if you go to look at your rough draft or your outline, and I gave you comments, they'll show up on the side of your document. So just be aware, if you click the check mark on them, they will disappear. So I don't need you to accept them, but they're there for you to see. They're there for you to think about. If you want to take a screenshot, you can if you want, but if not, that is yours to look at. But if you click on them, they will go away. And I know that is something that all of the rest of the teachers will also talk to you about when we start for next semester. That will be another thing that we'll go over. It's when we give you those comments, because of the way Google Docs works, it's constantly allowing you to change it. And so if you edit it, that comment goes away. And that's okay if what you're turning in is that final document. But if you want to be able to look at that while you write another draft, then you want to make a new one and then compare the two, not change that one directly. So just know that if you do hit the check mark because you say, yes, I understand, teacher, that will disappear. So that's the only warning I have for you, just to be careful with those. If you want to see them later. If not, then by all means, click away. So yeah, that's it. If you think of any other recommendations for the types of writing that you want to listen to that you want to practice besides cover letters and maybe doing some short stories or some narratives, either put it in the comment section of the survey or you can message us directly because we always want to know ideas. I can't promise that we're always going to be able to do them, but we do want to know what you guys are interested in. There's a good and bad side to being an English teacher here. So as a native English teacher, the 4 of us have to make all of our lessons on our own. The Korean teachers have a textbook that you guys probably don't like, but they have a book. It tells them, in this unit, we're going to learn this grammar structure. We're going to learn this vocabulary. This is the topic. And they kind of have to follow that, which makes it easy for them to know what to teach. But at the same time, if you guys don't like it, they can't change it. That's the book. We have to make ours up from scratch. From the beginning, there's no one that gives us any ideas. So, when we decide to do a lesson on role models, that's completely up to Bella to decide. I'm gonna teach about role models and use that to teach English, and then she has to make her PPT, and she has to come up with all the ideas for what you guys are going to use to practice talking about role models. And so it's as long as you're not super rude with telling us, we still want to know feedback. So if you say, hey, I really didn't like that lesson. I feel like it didn't teach me much. We're not going to be super offended by that. We do want to know feedback. If you think something is not important, uh, and you have an idea for what could be better, we would really like to know that. Just again, please be respectful about how you say it. So don't say that lesson was dumb, I hated it, but do say, teacher, next time can we do something else instead? I feel like everyone already knew how to do that. Like, we shouldn't have spent 2 days studying that, but what we should be practicing is maybe this topic instead. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So yeah, that's all I want to get across to you guys. Things I wish everyone would have done from the beginning. So give us feedback. If there's things you like, let us know, because again, if there was a class that we thought was okay and you guys all really liked it, we could make more like it, but we don't know. You guys are very tough to read sometimes. Everybody says, yes, teacher, it was good, but you don't let us know when you love things or when you hate things. So please be honest with us. But in that case, it is 10:37 in the morning. We have covered the material. You have one assignment to do, which is that survey. It should not take you long. But other than that, the only thing I need you to do is, if you haven't turned in assignments and you want to get credit, please turn them in. If not, then you guys are all set uh, for the week. And you have nothing more from me until you come to school in a week and a half. So somebody help me out. We have we have nothing on Monday and Tuesday. It's like school's closed. But are we doing online class Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week? Is that what they've told you? So for next week, is it? You guys go to school on the 8th. Okay, on the 8th. That doesn't mean anything for me yet. Hold on. At the Monday? Yes. Okay, so Monday. All right, so I'm confused then, because they told us that we needed to have um, like an online lesson prepared for next week, for the end of the week, and then you guys would actually be here in class on the 8th for that Monday, Tuesday, um, and then we go away for New Year again for Salo. So okay, I will find out more. But yes, I know. Thank you. Okay, so you do have online class. I was hoping you guys were going to have a break. Oh well. Okay, so be here for those 2 days and then online class 3, 4, 5. Perfect. All right. Well, in that case, um, enjoy the rest of the week. Hopefully, you don't have much more to do for the winter classes. And then, yeah, I will see you guys on the 8th when you actually come to school. Um, and yeah, we'll enjoy those 2 days. And then I won't see you guys anymore because I'll be gone. So, but yeah, thank you guys for participating in the class. Um, I hope you learned something. I hope I haven't bored you for 8 days. Uh, But yeah, I will see you guys in 2 weeks. So I'll see you guys later. All right, bye.
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 See ya.